Hey, this is Rob Anspach, and welcome back to another edition of E-Heroes. This is episode 232 for all those keeping count. And, for all those entrepreneurs early in life who struggled, maybe ate rice and beans every day, I actually have a rice and beans expert with us. His name's Bryan Eisenberg, and he actually wrote the book on rice and beans. So, welcome to the show, and thanks for being here.
Oh, it's a pleasure, Rob. The main character actually was almost called Rob. Um,
Almost, Rob.
it ended up being Bob only because I had my one of my sons read it, and he kept on having a struggle keeping the characters different between Rob and Ricky,
Mm.
and so I said, okay, I'm just going to make it Bob, and that worked. So almost, you could have said maybe that was you, but yeah, no.
Yeah, it's always about me. But no, I was honored to get an early copy. I read it and I enjoyed it. And it's not for me. It was not the typical book where every chapter is a little different. Now this continues on through the adventures and showcases the struggles and yeah, it kind of was reminiscent of Brian Tracy's a lot of his books, and I think a lot of people will enjoy it. And I noticed that it was getting uh, great Amazon sales. I think it's number one new release
Yep,
already, and it was only released what a day ago. So
yep.
pretty exciting.
Yeah, no, it's funny how it came about because as you and I were talking, we're similar ages. We've been entrepreneurs most of our life. Most of that early stuff and the building stages, my kids were kind of too young to really pay attention and to notice. So, my oldest is about to graduate college. My middle one is about to go to college. And my youngest one is about to go to high school. And it was I don't know, it was a typical weekday. My son was off from school. He said, "Hey, Dad, can we go out and have a catch?" And he's a baseball player, big baseball player. He now towers over me. He's 6'5", 260 pounds. And I said, "Let me just. I'm finishing up, an email to a client. Just give me a minute. We'll go out." And we go out, and I catch that first ball, and at that moment, like I just something triggered in me, and these last few years have been difficult for a lot of people, right?
Mhm.
And so I was struggling to have creative sparks and really pushing forward. But that first catch, I just felt that moment of joy that I had the freedom that I could be there the middle of the day, random day of the year, just to play catch with him, and I could turn everything else off.
Mhm.
And that is why I built what I built over the years, right? So I have that freedom, and like I wanted him to understand that that's why I became an entrepreneur, right? So I can get to every one of those baseball games. I choose my schedule. I choose when I take off to play a catch. And I realized that as I started asking friends, "Hey, is there a book that you would recommend to a young aspiring entrepreneur that teaches them, all about these first principles and mindset of being an entrepreneur?" And everybody struggled to come up with one.
Mhm.
I mean, they named some really good books. Obviously things like the E Myth, the hard thing about doing hard things, the Lean Startup. But I really wanted something that would deal from everybody who was literally picking up trash in the street, right? Like they're picking up junk. If you recognize that might be the story of Brian Scudamore from 1-800 Got
Mhm.
Junk. Actually, it kind of fits almost exactly there. So it's not really him, but it's his story in the book. To tech giants, right? And I've worked with them all. So I really wanted to make sure that there was something out there, kind of a legacy, where they've got a blueprint on how to handle this.
And it's such an easier read. I mean, for me, when I started out, the E Myth was that book that you were supposed to read, and I did read it. I can't say that I enjoyed it. I read it. I found some good nuggets in there that would help me, but it was for me at that point in time, it was so far above what I was thinking that I was like, this no.
Yeah, I mean, if you had a bakery with like one or two employees, then it was probably a good book for you.
Yeah.
right? But if you are, like Bob in this story, and you've got, a job, or you're just starting your entrepreneurial journey, right? And you're frustrated with your job because you are just over broke, right? And you're trying to figure out, well, what does it take to actually do this? I really worked hard at trying to convey what that experience was like, because everybody sees the success, but they forget about that whole road along there that
Hmm.
took them to get there. And even just making that initial leap
Right.
is oftentimes a struggle.
And I've been an entrepreneur for, well, next year will be going on 28 years. And I never did it for the money. It was always about the freedom. And, because I had gotten so frustrated working for other people and them telling me, hey, you can't, you can't partake in that holiday or that vacation or that your daughter's event. You have to work. I'm like, no, I don't. Bullshit.
That's right.
No.
Yeah, it's a fallacy. Like, when we were growing up, our parents were sold the idea that, if you went ahead, you go to school, you get a job, you work 48 years for IBM, and you push another two just to squeak out to get the little watch and a pension. That's not reality anymore. I think typical kid today stays in a job for less than 2 years. When Harris just did a poll, they asked kids what their dream job is. It's to be an influencer.
Hmm.
So I think we're in a generation that um, I think is fighting back. Is starting to realize that entrepreneurism and the freedom that you have, that because you can have one of these in your hand and you can have a business.
Hmm.
That's what's so incredible today. And
Right.
the problem is, as there are just too many people say, "Oh yeah, yeah, just do this and a couple little punches, and you're making a fortune."
Right.
That's
Well,
the danger.
and the thing is that my very first business that lasted quite a while was a carpet cleaning business, and I had it for 19 years before I sold it. But in the meantime, I also started this consulting company, which now is going on its 21st year. So I overlapped them. But here's the thing about the cleaning business is that it was local. And I still didn't have the freedom that I desired because all my clients were around me. They tugged at me. They wanted me to be available to them 24/7. Now that I have this coaching company and I help people all over the globe, I have more freedom because I can travel and all I need is this.
Correct.
So, sometimes the freedom that we desire to create a business is not really the business that is going to create that freedom. We have to go to the next level.
Exactly. Exactly. And it's that. And I think that's part of what we talk about, in the book, where it's a journey. It's about growth, right? It's about building up yourself and the systems. And it doesn't have to be complicated, but if you focus in on the right principles, you can still have success with your business.
Mhm. Now, off air, we talked about funnels briefly, and you know, for me, I try to keep everything that I do and everything that my clients do very simple because anybody can step in and take over. Problem is funnels overcomplicate, and I know that everybody's wanting their two comma club award, and those awards are great. They help with your credibility and authority, but if they don't help simplify what you're doing, it's just what's a lot of people call mind fuckery. Because to me, that's all it is. It's just stuff that makes you look bigger than what you are and it is. It's an absolutely madhouse. So, but you and I are both on the same boat when it comes to funnels. Um, and so, please explain. I mean, because I could
Yeah,
talk about it all day long.
I guess when I wrote my first book, Persuasive Online Copywriting, I think we had a picture of a funnel in there. Mostly because, again, it was the early days of the web and people were still starting thinking about this. But as I realized that what the advantage that the web was going to bring to people, and this is what we wrote in our New York Times and Wall Street Journal bestseller, Waiting for Your Cat to Bark, in 2006, um, was that the buyer was now in control of the experience, right? What the internet gave them is it gave them all the knowledge that the salespeople had, and probably better. And I gave an example of, I went in to go buy, I think it was a Nissan Murano at the time or something like that, right? And I had gone in and talked to a salesperson. I started asking about a particular feature, and he's like, I don't even know if that feature is available. I'm like, I just read it online. Like, and I realized that like, he was not going to help me buy,
Right.
which is really what good salespeople do, is help people buy. That I needed to get out of this place because they were not going to be of any help. The next one, I go to another salesman, and we almost got like I almost had to kill the man. I mean, it was terrible. What a terrible experience was, because all he was doing was providing friction in the environment. And when we think about funnels, right? If I got a funnel shaped candle here, right? If we pour things into a funnel, right, some will get stuck within there, but some will fall out. What's the force that causes some things to fall out? Well, that's gravity.
Hmm.
When we're talking about buying and selling, that's not gravity. There's only two forces that matter in buying and selling. It's friction and motivation. Can I make it smoother for you to get through and more enticing for you to get through? Or can I remove anything that's in the way now that's getting you stuck inside that funnel? And when you start realizing that those are the two main forces, then you start looking back at, hey, I don't have to worry about the object, right? I don't have to worry about this funnel. I need to worry about the human. I need to
Hmm.
worry about the person. What's the friction in their life that's causing them to look for the solution I have for them?
Right.
And what can I do to motivate them to take that action today?
Hmm.
That's it. Simple.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, the problem is that we have trained people to rely on these funnels, and it's not necessarily the funnel's fault. It is also our people, the conversion factor. So when I call somebody on the phone and their staff doesn't know how to answer my question, doesn't know how to help me, doesn't know how to guide me along, that's a disservice. So for me, it's like train your people, script them better, get them to be empowered to answer calls better. But no, we don't want to do that because our employees don't know how to do all that. We're just going to automate everything and then let the AI decide the fate of the customer.
I sent out a tweet yesterday. So I ordered something on Amazon, but actually batteries for this, which is a remote control for my light and my fan. And of course, yesterday it was hot here in Austin. I really wanted the fan on when I was going to do a Zoom, because obviously with the lights and everything, it gets a little toasty, right? I couldn't turn it on. I could turn on and off the light from the light switch because that was set, but I couldn't turn on the fan. Battery was dead. So on Sunday, I ordered batteries, and I qualified for next day shipping. Like it was just, or maybe on Monday morning, I ordered it, and the same day it was supposed to be delivered.
Hmm.
It wasn't enough because it was a $4 battery. I had to order one other thing, which I needed anyway. So I ordered that, and that showed up, right? There's other object, but the batteries got lost. In fact, when I was walking home with the dog, I found somebody else's package sitting in the middle of the street, like from a mile away. Obviously, careless driver. Anyway, I call Amazon yesterday, or actually, first I tried chatting with them with their chat bot on their phone, to complain about the order because it's telling me, okay, it's probably lost. I'm like, okay, look, I still need my batteries. And say, okay, you can cancel your order. So I go ahead, and I'm getting ready to cancel the order, but it's going to take them 3 days to refund me. Okay, not a big deal. It's $4.86 or something. Like, I'm not worried about the money, but I need my battery still because I still want my fan. So I go ahead and say, okay, place another order. So I go in, I add batteries into the cart, and it tells me I can have free delivery on Sunday. This was yesterday. I can have free delivery on Sunday. So yesterday was Wednesday. The only way I'm getting it free is if I wait till Sunday. And I'm like, wait a minute. I already pre-qualified for same day delivery. I just want it today. Now I could have it today. So that, in other words, they have it accessible to bring it to me, but because they screwed up, I'm not going to get it on time, which
Hmm.
made no sense to me. It was an additional $2.99. And not that the $3 makes a difference, but it's the principle of it. So I actually said, okay, call me. And I get to the frontline person. And the frontline person, I'm trying to explain this to them. Okay. And they're like, well, no, there's really nothing I can do. Finally, she gets to the point. So let me see if I can get a supervisor. So she gets a supervisor. And Bianca was a darling. And I explained this in the tweet. I said the difference between the most frontline people is they follow a strict set of rules, and the supervisors have common sense,
Hmm.
right? Because she looked at it and said, yeah, you know what? You're right. You should have had it on Monday. We screwed up. I'm just going to give it a $299 credit for you so you can order it now and you'll have it. And yes, I finally got it. I can turn on the fan if I need to. But today it's 34 degrees because in Austin, you just never know this time of year.
But the thing is, you waste a half hour of your time to save $3.
But I got a tweet out of it. I did get a tweet out of it. Now we got a conversation on this podcast about it.
There you go.
But it is the reality, right? There was a point of friction there, and they could have resolved it,
Mhm.
right? They could have easily have like this even from a software perspective. They can say, "Hey, there was a flaw in our execution for this product.
Mhm.
Now let's notice if there's something similar to this product, right? This could be a rule just written. Hey, if there's an extra fee or something, or the price has gone up, hey, balance it out.
Mhm.
That's not difficult,
Right.
right? But if they're not looking at it from the human point of view and saying, hey, I need to remove friction, I'm hoping they'll go ahead and they'll look at a call like that, right? And say, okay, how can we prevent that from happening in the future? Because me getting on Bianca's time costs more than $3 too,
Mhm. Yeah.
right? That's the problem.
And I blame all of this on social media because everybody wants instant, instant, instant. And so even on Facebook now, you got these instant messages. You can go to the person's page and type in your message and hope that someone is available to chat.
Mhm.
Well, a lot of my clients are busy entrepreneurs, lawyers, doctors. They're not in front of their computer all the time, nor do they have notifications on their phone. So I'm watching and people are landing their chats in there and they're waiting and they're waiting. 5 minutes go by. Hey, is anybody available to chat? And I'm like, so what I did is I went in and rewrote all those responses saying, look, we appreciate you being here. We appreciate you leaving a message, but pick up the phone and call this number. One of our staff or our answering service will take care of you because it's just retarded.
Well, what you did is you set a better expectation, and that's the problem, right? In today's marketplace, our expectations are set by companies like Apple,
Mhm.
right? Like Amazon. So when you are a small business, you have to compete with the customer's expectations that are similar to what they get everywhere else. It's not because I'm in this business. We have a great story of this. My my brother was sitting at a client's office in San Francisco, and the client sold or in the Bay Area sold very high end watches,
Mhm.
and they're talking just in general about the business, and they're asking some questions, and it gets to the point where he has to say, okay, so how long does it take until you get back to a lead? And one of the people there, I guess the head salesperson, said something like, well, we usually try to get back to them within 24 to 48 hours. And my brother just took note of it and just like kept it in the back of his head. A few minutes later, there was a break. He went on to the Prime Now account, ordered a bunch of things, and while they resumed their meeting, they get a delivery of all this stuff. And they look at it and they're like, my brother goes, I just want you to keep in mind, I got all of this delivered in less than half an hour. This is what your customers expect. And you're telling me you can't answer a phone call within 24 to 48 hours.
Mhm.
And that reset their expectations. So they started tracking how long it took until they responded. And just by adjusting that, right, they increased their sales. I mean, it was a significant, significant amount. They're still not
Right.
30 minutes, 5 minutes, right? They're still working on it. But they've gotten to a point where they've been able to reset expectations of what's good enough. And I think the problem is when we're not communicating those things and we're not setting expectations for our customers. Like, I would say, I wish our lawyers were, and I don't know if you wrote this in copy, I wish our lawyers had so much free time not taking care of other clients that they
Right.
could be here just waiting for you to send them their chats. But they're actually busy with clients trying to help them win cases.
Yeah.
But if you want to talk to somebody, please call us.
Well, yesterday I was going to send some chocolates to Canada to some of my team members. And so I go to this site. So I've used this site to send, my American clients
Mhm.
these chocolates, and so I go there and it says these items are available to ship to Canada. I'm like, okay, click. I start selecting, and then it says to place your order, call this 800 number. Crap. So I call the number, and they're like, yeah, we see your order. However, that $20 shipment of chocolate that you want to send is going to cost another $70 to get it to Canada. I'm like, what? So you want me to spend $90 for a $20? And she's like, yeah, nobody does it. I was like, why is it on your website?
Yeah, they just say you don't ship to Canada.
So I just wasted an hour of my time dealing with you people.
And now think about it. Your feelings towards that brand has eroded some.
Right.
Maybe not completely, but some.
Hmm.
And how many times does it take a little bit more erosion, a little bit more erosion, to the point where you say, I can tell you what my Brooklyn friends would say from the, some of the guys in the book. It's like, no. Let's just say holy cannolis, okay? Like, no, I'm not doing this anymore.
Well, let's show the book.
Here we go. Nice and thin book. It'll take you
Very
about
easy
an
read.
hour to read.
Now, don't
Okay.
anybody that's watching this on YouTube forget that little gray thing. That's not
Yeah.
going to be on the book. That's a proof copy.
Yep. The funniest thing, by the way, talking about friction. Okay. You've got some books behind you, right? You've written a couple books,
About 36 of them.
right? I'm only on 8, so I'm not 36. But what is the purpose of having author copies of books? Why do you want copies of the book early?
So I can give them out,
Right. And why do you want to give them out so people can do what?
review them, leave
Okay,
testimonials.
see, you're a brilliant man. See, and you can already go consult for Amazon, even though, like, I wrote the book, be like Amazon. But in this case, don't be like Amazon. So the only way you can order Kindle print on demand author copies is once you hit publish of the book.
I know, it's a pain in the ass.
They'll send me 5 proofs at a time, which is okay. Finally, that's new. They never used to have that years ago. They just added that
Right.
recently.
Yeah, it's I have a whole bottom shelf of proofs.
Yeah, but I want to order author copies so I can send them out to a lot of the people who are mentioned in the book and stuff like. No, it's going to take them 3 weeks to get to me.
Yeah. So what
So
I do is I typically the first week, you can always do this, lower your price of the book before you even launch it to, the bottom line figure, $5, $6. Order a bunch, you'll have it the next day.
so my books are coming to some of my books are coming today. Well, so that's
And
exactly what I did. So
then and then you
through
raise
a
the
series of a
price
number
for
of
the
different
launch.
issues, we decided, like, originally it was supposed to be out in November, but a whole bunch of things like family life and college, and my son was supposed to, like, pitch in the World Baseball Classic, and then last minute MLB said no, you're ineligible, like just crazy stuff. And so he's like, okay, you know what? I'm not going to have it ready in time. Let's just push it off.
Mhm.
It only allows you to push it off 30 days. So I said, okay, we're gonna do this December 14th. So yesterday, because we're the 15th today, we launched the books, and what we're doing is really only friends and family kind of know about it. We're not going to do a lot of major publicity for it, and we kept the prices ridiculously low for exactly that. So people can buy the copies now, leave the reviews, so that in January when we actually start marketing the book,
Mhm.
all the reviews will be there. Of course. So what happened yesterday? I had a couple of friends who had early copies. They went and left reviews. Guess what's still not up on the website yet? Those reviews.
Mhm. And what I don't like is that you can send all these early copies to people, or you can send autograph copies to people. And Amazon's like, well, if you didn't purchase it, we're not going to put your review up.
Well,
Ugh.
the crazy thing is they actually did purchase extra copies on top of it.
Yeah,
So there's no reason why they shouldn't show up. But one of my friends ordered 10 copies to give out to his office mates and stuff like that. Nope.
yeah. So sometimes what I'll do is I'll get someone's address and I'll just go on Amazon and order it. Send it to them.
Yep.
Yeah, I'm going to pay the full retail price. Amazon will eventually, 60 days, 90 days, get my share back to me. Um, but I do it because, and here's I have sent books all over the world.
Hmm.
Uh, Go to my local post office, and they'll say, "Hey, Rob, it's going to be $20 to ship it to Canada or India or this and that." I just go to Amazon, send it right there, prime shipping. I don't have to pay for the shipping. I just
And they
pay
do a
for the
better
book,
job. Yeah.
and it's there the next day.
Yep.
Okay, so I'm paying my retail price. I'm getting my, like I said, my commission later down the road, but I don't have to deal with the post office.
No, you're paying a slight bit more retail.
Hmm.
Amazon gets a slightly bigger cut, but they're taking care of all the hassle,
Right.
and your time's also worth money.
Yeah, and usually when it's in a pretty Amazon envelope, post office doesn't care. They ship it. They don't. You you put it in a regular envelope, a brown envelope, and I don't know. Post office sits on it.
Yep.
I've had so many of them lost through the post office. I think there's somebody in there reading all my books or something.
It must be.
It's like, ah, yeah. Talk about friction. The United States Post Office is nothing but friction.
However, it's still, even now, better than many of in other countries as well,
Hmm.
which is frightening.
Yeah, and the UK post office. I'm not sure it's a post office, but it's
The
called
Royal Mail.
yeah. Well, there was their shipping company called Hermes,
Hmm.
and they were notorious for losing everything. And I think they just changed their name to something, but the new company is I think getting the reputation of being worse than Hermes. Yeah. So how long did it take you to write the book?
Um, I started in April. I wrote till May, then got very busy with my son's baseball season, so put it kind of on hold. When he was done with the fall season, wrapped it up. I basically wrote a chapter, maybe two occasionally. So probably under 30 days,
Yeah.
really 30, 30, 40 days.
Yeah. I mean that's normally what I tell clients. So if you have your content already, prepared and you just sit down and write, it doesn't take you that long to write. I mean, my first book took me, I think, 2 months
Hmm.
because it was my first book. My second book, from concept to creation to number one bestseller in 4 countries, 60 days. Most of the other books were very short. I mean, right now I'm producing 4 or 5 books a year. So, I don't have the luxury of waiting a whole year to put a book out.
No, and it's the reason to self-publish today. I mean, there's some small benefits to larger publishers, but not many. I've self-published. I hybrid published. I published with two different big companies. I published with Wiley. I published with Thomas Nelson, um, and all my last books I'll only self-publish. There's just really no benefit to it because you get to control everything. You get to control timing, pricing. Um, yeah, I mean, where the distribution is. You want your book in the airport, you can get your book in the airport. Not a problem.
Yeah, and then the thing is that for me, it was never about book signing. I tried the book signing thing. I don't like it. Just sit there and wait and talk, and it's not for me.
Hmm.
Uh, would it be nice to have books in the airport? Maybe. But here's the thing: is that I travel so much. I have books in my bag all the time. I'm giving books away. People have my books, and for my Rob versus series, it's all sarcasm.
Hmm.
And if it wasn't for me taking the leap from a serious book that educated entrepreneurs to more sarcastic books that also teach, but in a funny way, I would never had the opportunity to write the pilot for a future TV show that may, hopefully, God willing, in 2023, become a TV show, and
Oh,
and
that'd be awesome.
we're waiting. January, we'll find out. So it'll be fun, but there again, it's going to be more writing, more everyday stuff, but it's taking those experiences and for a bigger audience.
That's awesome.
So there's for me, it was always about, hey, look, you're an entrepreneur, great, write a book. And people are like, well, what do you mean a book? That's look, you're taking all the stories, all the experiences, all your life lessons, and putting them into something that somebody else can read to learn about you, to know, your backstory, how you became who you are, your origin story, your superhero powers, and people don't understand. I'm like, look, I've done 36 books.
Well, that's mind blowing to me. But I'll tell you what's funny to me. So when I was in college and studying to be a social worker, eventually was going for my MSW before I left to join my brother in a business. Um, I had a boss named Fred, and Fred was a former priest who was thrown out of the priesthood. He ended up becoming an alcoholic. He was homeless. And became a social worker. And he was the head uh, of the division where I was at, where we were working with independent living people. So people with mental illnesses who could still kind of live on their own, right? And I was probably 18, 19 at this point. And Fred kept going to me. He said, "When are you going to write your book?" And I just kept looking at him like, "What are you talking about? Like, why would I write?" I hated writing when I was young. I mean, I'm sure if my any of my English teachers saw my shelf of books, like they just flip out. Like, what?
Yeah.
How did that happen? Because they did
And
their
and
best
and
at
I
discouraging.
probably violated everything that they've ever taught me.
Yeah, yeah. Um, and now I look back and there's a number of reasons. Number one is, this, lives on forever,
Mhm.
right? Like my kids are going to have this. My kids will have the rights to this, when I'm gone. There's an inherent value in it. But the other part, and it's the reason why we wrote the Persuasive Online Copy, which was our first, what do you call it, book that we kind of printed on our own. Um, I was at a party in New York City. Our friend Larry Chase, who wrote the first internet marketing newsletter out there,
Mhm.
and he had an apartment that like overlooked he had a balcony that was right underneath the Brooklyn Bridge. It was gorgeous, and it was the end of the night. I still remember some of the people who were there that night. It's great, like one of those like cemented memories. And he comes out before we leave, my brother and I, and he hands us a copy of what he says is his $35 business card.
Mm.
And that is the whole point, right? Like I can spend X on whatever kind of business card, or like Peter Shankman, who shows up in the book, right? He's got a little poker chip business card from back in the day, or my friend Roy Williams has got these beautiful coins. The difference was we're like, okay, this could be my business card. And not only does this give you all information how to find me, right? But it also creates a level of trust,
Mhm.
right? Because only experts really write books,
Mhm.
right? And so being able to have that is an invaluable thing for any kind of business owner. There's no question that it's worth having, because you all of a sudden become an authority on the topic. And
Mhm.
even if just an expert of you, you've become an expert at it.
Mhm. Yeah. Yeah, it's life changing, really, because when I shopped my very first book out, which turned out to be the easiest social media book you'll ever read, all the publishers wanted complicated. They wanted hefty books. They wanted, these things that taught you every single detail. I said, no, that's not what I want to put out. And after getting rejected and rejected and rejected, I'm like, screw this. And I started my own publishing company and immediately sold 2,000 copies of this very first book. And I'm like, wow, okay, this is great.
Yep.
And so then I partnered with another person to write another book, and then I came out with a third book, and people were like, Rob, you got to help us with our book. And next thing I know, I'm helping lawyers and doctors and speakers, and it just ballooned from there.
Yeah, no, it's invaluable. And look, the publishing companies make money because of the price on the book,
Hmm.
right? They always wanted a certain number of page count because they know, okay, when it's that thick, it's like an A paper, right? I can charge more for it. But if it's it's thin, like the Rice and Beans Millionaire is under 115 pages,
Hmm.
they can't charge as much. So no, sorry, this manuscript's not good enough. I'm like, no, this is the story. It has everything it needs to be told. I don't really need to tell more than that.
Right.
Like it's done.
Yeah.
And yeah, a traditional publisher would never let me probably get away with that. Um,
And
I,
see,
I
that's
mean, I even remember
that's
having a conversation with Dan Ariely.
right.
Dan Ariely, wanted to write his first book. He actually wanted to write a cookbook, and they wouldn't let him. So he ended up writing Predictably Irrational.
Yeah. And those are the perfect size books. 100 to 150 pages are perfect because you can. It takes you what? And here's one of the books I wrote. This was the one that my partner and I wrote.
Hmm.
Optimize This, all about SEO. Came out 2014, so 8 years ago, and it was concept to creation in 60 days, and we did everything through Google Hangout, which was before Zoom,
Yep.
and then we transcribed it. Bam, it's book. But here's the thing: is at 100, less than 150 pages, you can have it read in less than 2 hours,
Well, you,
and
you
then go
you just
about your
said the
day.
magic word, read. How many
Right.
people buy books? They get this massive book, and then they never read it because it seems so overwhelming, right? Where like purposely, right? Chapter one, that's it. That's all of chapter one. You're done.
Right.
Oh, okay. Maybe I'll take one more chapter. Okay, let me look at chapter two. Um, there we go. Oh, done.
Yeah.
Chapter. And if you let them go, because it's not that attention spans are smaller, but it's harder to keep people's attention today,
Yeah.
right? And so by keeping it short, they feel like they're accomplishing something. And if they feel like they can accomplish lots of little chapters, yeah, like you said, they finish and read the book, which is actually more valuable than just buying the book.
Hmm. Yeah. Yeah. We're books are competing now with TikTok and 9.6 seconds of attention, and it's awful.
And Wednesday, and then miniseries like Wednesday, right, where people will get sucked in, and they'll spend 2 days watching the whole series and do nothing else.
I still haven't seen it.
It was actually well done. I will say that it far exceeded my expectations.
Although I probably would have watched it more than I watched Andor. I thought that was very slow, and I'm a big Star Wars fan, but I just couldn't get into Andor either.
It took till the next to last episode until I was and it's only because, and again, it's only because Star Wars has so much trust, right? They've already built that
Right.
legacy in my mind that I was like, okay, I'm gonna give it everything I got. And then the last two episodes kind of justified it, but man, they make me work for that one. That was a little friction there.
So how do people find you? How do you take away the friction so they can find you?
You know what? Bryan Eisenberg. The funniest. I'll end with one of the funniest stories. So I'm at a conference one day, and I'm walking through the booths, and as I'm going through one of the booths, I see a younger kid. He actually grew up a block away from me when we were kids, 1 or 2 blocks, and his name was Bryan Eisenberg, spelt exactly the same. And he worked at Google. And he said, "Oh, so you're the Bryan Eisenberg? Like everybody keeps asking if I'm going to be at this conference, that conference, and it's you who's speaking there, not me." But talk about a small world. But yes, if you Google me, you will not find the other Bryan Eisenberg, even though now I forgot where he's working. Um, but you will find me. I'm on Twitter. I'm on LinkedIn. I actually did start a TikTok. I don't know about it yet. I'm not committed. But I'm starting to put a little content on there because I am trying to reach a little bit of a younger generation now. I want to pass on that mentorship.
Hmm.
Um, LinkedIn, BryanEisenberg.com. I'm not hard to find.
Yeah. And we talk about the younger generation. When I was first starting out as an entrepreneur, nobody took me seriously because I was too young. Now I'm middle aged, and people and the younger generation are like, "Yeah, you're too old. We don't
You
want
don't
to
know
listen."
anything. Yeah.
Like
The
what ever.
the problem is, the old rules still apply, right?
Mhm,
Some things have changed, right? Some of the hows have changed, but the fundamentals of being a great entrepreneur will never change. It's about an exchange of value.
mhm.
That's it.
There you
What
go.
value can you provide for whatever value they're going to give you? Whether it's their time, attention, money, sex, whatever it is.
So
Cut.
go. Yes.
Drop the mic.
Gonna end it on that. So everybody go over to what bryaneisenberg.com,
Yep.
grab his book, go to Amazon, grab his other books, and you too can be a rice and bean millionaire. And I'll see you guys on the next episode. Adios.